There was a small village on the edge of the Wildmere Forest, a place that, though picturesque by daylight, transformed into something sinister as night fell. Wildmere was no ordinary forest. Its towering trees stood like ancient sentinels, their shadows twisting into forms that defied explanation. The villagers, who had lived there for generations, called it the guardian of secrets that should never be disturbed. Jonathan Harrow had not set foot in the village for years. Having left for the city in pursuit of a more modern life, he had little intention of returning until his uncle, Edgar Harrow, passed away under mysterious circumstances, leaving him an old house on the forest's edge. The house had stood abandoned since Edgar's death, and rumors whispered through the village. Rumors that spoke of how he had been found dead beneath the full moon, his body torn apart in a way no natural beast could explain. When Jonathan arrived at the house, he immediately sensed something was wrong. The air inside was thick, heavy with a scent he could not place. The nights were restless. Faint whispers rustled through the trees, accompanied by the occasional soft scraping against the wooden walls. But the most disturbing discovery lay on Edgar's old desk, a journal, its pages scrawled with frenzied handwriting. One phrase repeated over and over. "The hollow moon is coming. They are watching." The villagers were reluctant to speak of Edgar. Only Agatha Moore, an elderly woman who had lived there her entire life, dared to approach him. "The hollow moon is near, Mr. Harrow," she whispered urgently. "You must leave before it's too late." Jonathan dismissed her warning as mere superstition. But he did not yet know that the hollow moon was only days away, and that something in the forest had been waiting for him all along. The nights in the house never truly settled into silence. Jonathan soon realized that Wildmere was not merely an eerie stretch of land. It was alive in ways he could not explain. The noises grew clearer. Sometimes, it was the faintest rustling, as if unseen figures moved through the underbrush. Other times, it was a low, guttural sound, lingering just beyond the reach of light. But what truly unnerved him was Edgar's journal. The writings became more erratic towards the end, the lines broken, filled with frantic sketches of clawed hands and hollow-eyed figures. "I saw them again tonight. The yellow eyes. They do not fear me. They know I am alone. I hear them at the door. It is not a man's voice. It is something else, something waiting for me to step outside. The hollow moon is tomorrow. I will not survive." Jonathan set the journal down, his hands trembling. It was all too much to be coincidence. The next morning, when he walked into the village, he noticed the people regarded him differently. Conversations quieted as he passed. Gazes flickered to him, then away. Only Agatha Moore still met his eyes. She pulled him aside in the shadows of the inn, her fingers gripping his wrist tightly. "Edgar did not die of sickness, Mr. Harrow," she said in a hushed voice. "He was torn apart. The forest took him. And now, the forest knows you are here." Jonathan let out a nervous chuckle. "Come now, Mrs. Moore. This is only superstition." But her eyes did not waver. "Do you truly wish to know what happened to Edgar?" That night, back in his house, Jonathan found something placed at his doorstep. A small, tattered bundle wrapped in cloth. There was no note. As he unwrapped it, the night air seemed to grow colder. Inside lay a silver amulet, shaped like a crescent moon, stained with dried blood. And in the distance, just beyond the trees of Wildmere, a pair of glowing yellow eyes stared at him, unmoving, unblinking. The wind carried whispers through the trees, voices low and rhythmic. Jonathan stood frozen in his doorway, his breath uneven, his heart hammering against his ribs. Then the figures emerged from the darkness. Not just one, not just two. A pack. They moved on long, powerful limbs, their hulking forms too fluid, too fast to be entirely human. Their yellow eyes gleamed, their mouths half open, revealing rows of sharp, glistening teeth. Jonathan took a step back, gripping the silver amulet in his hand. He didn't know why, but it felt important, like it meant something. But the creatures kept advancing. Desperate, he rushed to Edgar's desk, flipping through the journal with shaking fingers. There had to be something, a way to stop them. And then, they do not fear men. They do not fear iron, nor fire, nor prayer. But they do fear one thing. Jonathan's eyes darted to the next line. They fear their own blood. A claw scraped against the wooden door. The lock rattled. The time had run out. He grabbed a knife from the table and, with a sharp intake of breath, slashed his palm open. Blood dripped onto the floor. The first creature broke through the window, stepping into the house with slow, deliberate movements. But the moment its eyes landed on the pooling blood, it hesitated. Its growl shifted into something else. Fear. Jonathan lifted his bleeding hand. The creatures outside stopped moving. Their snarls turned to uneasy whimpers. They could sense something. Jonathan realized the truth. He was not their prey. He was one of them. And as the hollow moon reached its peak, the creatures turned and slipped back into the forest, one by one, vanishing into the night. Jonathan stood at the threshold of his home, his wound still fresh, his body trembling not from fear, but from understanding. The curse had not been lifted. The curse was inside him now.